Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong Choat. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have an amazing guest. This is somebody who was actually recommended to me that I had to have on my show. But then he beat me to it and asked me to be on his show before we even met. So I absolutely thank him for having me on his show. This guy is the author of the book Mind Your Own Fitness, and also the book Develop the Champion Within. He is a man of many skills and roles. He's the founder of the Mind Hack Academy. He's been on radio, he's been on TV, he's been everywhere. And he's the peak performance coach. He's a mindset master trainer. So please welcome the Grandmaster himself, Mr. Bob Choat.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here.
I'm so very honored. So honored.
Oh no, the honor's on mine. Like, it's going through some of the stuff that you've done. It's absolutely amazing. Like, you've been a lot of different roles. So tell us a little bit more of that history. How did you go from one to the other? I'll let you share those stories because I don't want to ruin it for everybody else who don't know your history, because it's absolutely fascinating. And then also, what are you absolutely passionate right now to be working on?
Okay, so regarding my background, because it's multifaceted, as you checked out. I mean, when I was 18 months old, my mom put a stick in my hand and was teaching me kendo, because I'm half Japanese, and my mom learned from both her older brothers, who were both officers in the Japanese army during World War II, and they had trained in original Kodokan way back when they were 5 years old. And my uncle Keiji is still alive. He's about to turn 107.
Whew.
Yeah, so it's that aspect. And then when I lived in Okinawa from age 5 to age 8, I studied Goju, and which is an Okinawan karate. It's one of the ones that main ones that people know about. And I really got delved into the martial arts. In fact, that's like my foundation for everything that I do, regarding even playing sports and the way I learn things and so forth, including all the different degrees that I have. So I carried that kind of warrior spirit throughout my life. And it wasn't my father, who was a career Army guy, that taught me to be that way. And again, it was my mother. And she taught me to be a protector. And I could recall around when I was 5 years old, and it was either at an airport or a bus station, or it could even been a train station. I don't remember. All I remember was that she told me to stand guard over the luggage that we had while she went. I think she went either to like the restroom or something. So I stood guard. I actually stood at attention guarding this stuff. So my goal when I was a kid, I wanted to be Superman, because I remember George Reeves in The Amazing Adventures of Superman back in the 1950s, and he was known. So I wanted to be like that, and I tried all kinds of things, and I just couldn't do it. And I remember an old Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs was like super bugs. He was like Superman kind of bugs. He ate these superpower carrots and flying all over the place, beating up all the bad guys and trying to save the world. And all of a sudden, he lost his carrots. They fell out of his cape or whatever. It just fell down to the ground. The bad guys got it, and they ended up becoming super bad guys. And they were attacking Bugs, and Bugs said, "Stop! I'm going to be a real hero." And so he exited, came back, and he was in Marine Corps dress blues. So that kind of stuck with me. So as I went through my childhood and had a lot of different experiences, including a lot of injuries. I can remember on my grandparents' farm in the Ozarks, and I was walking on a wet log, and I had one of my many injuries throughout my life. So I carried this can, and the can was an old-fashioned coffee can. So the coffee cans back then, they actually had this key on the outside. You had to open it around to lift up the lid, and it had a sharp edge. So I carried that can. I slipped on it, and it hit me right on my forehead. It split all the way up here. So I had to have stitches. In fact, there's you can barely see it. That scar still there. And so I got ridiculed as a kid. They thought I was like Frankenstein's monster with the scar going all the way back up
Wow.
here. Then a few months later, on the same farm, I was standing next to this hot stove, uh, when my grandmother had a skillet full of hot grease, and that was accidentally knocked over, and it hit me on my right thigh all the way down. So I ended up with third-degree burns. So
Wow.
now I look like Frankenstein's monster, and I remember Frankenstein getting burned or whatever. So I had this third-degree burn, and if you ever saw a third-degree burn, it really looks grotesque. I mean, it just really, so all the pits and everything in it. So I had that for a lot of years, and yet it didn't stop me from doing a lot of other stuff, including when I started playing like football at age 9, and I had my little businesses. I also did close around the same time. I had a lawnmower cutting service. I had uh, other things. I sold Grit magazine. This is an old magazine you used to have in the back of comic books and everything. So you could win prizes and cash and all that. So I had both of those kind of things going on. And school wasn't like my thing at that time
Mm-hmm.
until I hit the 6th grade, and I realized that I could excel in school and even in math and other things. And then all of a sudden it just took off. And by the time I hit junior high, and I was living in Georgia at the time, Savannah, Georgia. I lived there for like 3 years. Okinawa, when I was a kid, was also 3 years. So I lived in Georgia, uh, went to school. I went to 2 different schools. One junior high was like all white school. Well, they ended up telling me I wasn't supposed to be there. So I went to a school that was about 90% black. And I started um, really doing great in school and in other areas. And I really opened up.
Mm-hmm.
What I what I didn't tell or explain to your audience, I've also been a lifelong stutterer too.
Wow.
And I had other issues when I was 5 years old. Going back, I was uh, diagnosed as being mentally retarded.
Whew.
So think about that. I had an IQ test and I scored 70 on it. So I was officially referred to as a moron. That was the diagnostic label. So I didn't think I was going to do good until I hit junior high. And then math, boom. I started doing really good 6th grade and then in the 7th grade. So I was too advanced for the other 7th graders. They actually put me in algebra 1. So I
Wow.
took algebra 1 in the 7th grade. And then I took geometry in the 8th grade and algebra 2 and trig in the 9th grade. And I took calculus in the 10th grade
Mm-hmm.
and also physics at that time as well. So everything was like really fast and really accelerating.
Yeah.
And I was doing really well in terms of that. I also opened up. Now my stuttering really didn't go away, but I found another avenue. I found out that I also love to perform, but not necessarily speak.
Yeah.
So in the 9th grade, I had my uh, best friend, and we had another guy, and we formed a group, and we entered a talent show, and we had to sing and dance.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, James Brown was like a new guy, so we wanted to do one of his numbers.
Uh-huh.
So we did a James Brown number, and we ended up winning the talent show.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think that period of time in junior high was an opening up. I learned a lot, and I had one teacher, Mr. Tower, and Mr. Tower, he was I would say my best teacher. He was very enthusiastic in terms of what he did.
Mm-hmm.
What we didn't know was he also had a love of baseball, and and I I remember, in fact, all my classmates, we all remember him coming in early in the morning, and he would be out like training really, really, really hard. And then in the late afternoon, he'd be at the local high school, which is right next to our school. They both had the same name. So he was right there, and he was playing baseball with the baseball team. He was boom, 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 all this kind of stuff. And it turned out that that was his dream. He wanted to be a professional baseball player, but he resigned to the fact that, he was going to be a school teacher until he heard about tryouts with the Atlanta Braves.
Wow.
So he started training and training and training. And then he came in, he says, this is towards the end of the school year, says, you may have noticed that I've been training really hard and everything like that.
Mhm.
And he says the reason I did it was because I love baseball and I wanted to try out. He
Mhm.
says, this is my last year teaching. I won't be coming back next year because I tried out for the Atlanta Braves and I got picked up.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Cool.
that kind of inspired me in terms of dreams, somebody going after the dream, because I learned from what he did, not from what he said.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that was a key for me to go out and live my dreams. And I had a lot of them. Remember I told you about Superman?
Yeah.
So
Still on your
I,
list.
yeah. So it was still on my list. So I went and I went to and I played excelled in sports as well. I was a multi-letter athlete um, through school. Even like I wrestled in ninth grade at that same junior high, and then uh, also part of 10th grade till I came to California because I was in 10th grade in Alabama, and I came to California and they had no wrestling, so I played football, I swam, I ran track, and
Wow.
in a very short period of time, because I graduated
Yeah.
really fast, and so this was in 1968. I ended up enlisting in the Marines. Remember back I told you about the Bugs Bunny cartoon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I'm going to be like, like that till the realization when you're in it, you can't really be Superman. And it's actually stupid to try to be Superman. But but I wanted to really prove myself.
Hmm.
And so I went to my time in the Marine Corps, uh, starting in boot camp and having to deal with all that, and got indoctrinated into force recon,
Hmm.
which is uh, we call it people call it special forces. We didn't back then in the Marines. We didn't refer to ourselves as special forces unit, but it was kind of like that. It was a Marine Corps version of it, and so we only focused on what we did in the Marines. Yes, we worked with the other, the Army Special Forces, the Navy SEALs, like that.
Hmm.
Sometimes we do that, but we usually worked in 4 to 6 man teams and everything,
Wow.
and then uh, after that, I was actually recruited by the Los Angeles Police Department
Hmm.
and ended up going into that and spent 5 years with the LAPD. And it wasn't for me. I wasn't very good at rules and everything. And no, here's the thing. People ask me, well, you were in the Marines. You don't like rules?
I thought the
Uh,
first thing they teach is discipline.
yeah. So discipline is one thing,
Yeah.
and following the UCMJ, that was another thing. But
Hmm.
dealing with the day in and day out of inspections and rules and all this kind of stuff wasn't for me. So while I was in force recon, we didn't have to deal with it, at least back in those days, the kind of rules that the regular fleet guys had to, until force recon was disbanded, sent me back to fleet, and I ended up getting the heck out of Dodge, and then LAPD. I didn't think the LAPD would be so rule oriented. They were more rule oriented in a lot of ways, and I said, okay, I'm not doing this. I need to do my own thing, and I wasn't going to be a corporate guy. Didn't fit in that environment, so I ended up starting my own thing, from doing bodyguard work to teaching women self-defense, and this through the 80s, and had an import-export company.
Hmm.
I learned how to write ads uh, in terms of creating, like doing mail order. In fact, interesting. See how I'm this really tough guy. But one of my first mail order products was something I had no idea. I just saw a product and I want to sell it. It was women cosmetics. And so I was trying to figure out, I said, if I could sell women cosmetics,
Hmm.
I could sell anything, because look at I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sell women cosmetics. So I did some like ads. I put it in like these women's magazines. It was a classified ad. It wasn't even just a little tiny classified ad. Then I found out that was the stupidest thing to do. You don't try to sell a full product off a little classified ad. You
Right.
you want to do a multi-step process. And the first thing back in those days, you place a classified ad for somebody to get free information, so you can capture their information. Back then there was no email, so you capture their name and possibly like their phone number, but their address, so you can mail them the information.
Hmm.
I made a mistake. So I found out that I wasn't going to sell anything. Well, I did get a few sales, which was pretty awesome. And I said, well, the headline must have drawn people into wanting to purchase it. So I ended up selling it. I didn't store the products. It was actually drop shipping. So I did that. Then I got better at writing ads, and I got all kinds of, like, read all the books and studied all the people from Dan Kennedy back then, but even going back before, I found some of the classics in terms of advertising. And then I started getting better. And then local businesses want me to write ads for them.
Cool.
So at that time, when I was writing ads, I was also teaching leadership. I was doing leadership workshops and leadership coaching and everything like that. But I ended up writing ads and started from a one-man advertising, and then I grew it to like 50 employees and just grew this big thing. And then I exited in '97, went back to school, got my master's in psychology. Then later on, I ended up getting my PhD in psychology because I love to know how this works. Because what I discovered was that everything I did in the past, everything I did and learned is all about here. Now, I had studied NLP, which I didn't say earlier. I started that like around 1980 and carried that through. And I studied hypnosis as well, but I wanted a deep dive. I wanted to know how it all comes together, not just the psychology. So my PhD in clinical psychology and neuropsychology. I also studied neuroscience, got my postdoc in that. And I plan on going back to school to getting a third PhD. And then I want to upgrade my neuroscience background as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really want to know how we tick and why we do what we do. And I want to know why I do what I did. So it was just it was an interesting journey to this day, and everything I studied, and there's an interconnection. So I tend to be a systems thinker. I look at the connections between everything, and I'm also in cybernetics, which is a whole nother thing. And it's not psychocybernetics, even though psychocybernetics did come from the initial cybernetics, and people talk about cybernetics and everything.
So you're the epitome of forever learner.
Yeah, forever learner. I would consider myself a polymath because I have a diverse area, and I tend to deep dive in all these different areas. So yeah. So, and it comes to the present where I'm continuing this journey. And again, I feel like I'm 18 years old. This year I turned 70. So
So based on your genes and your uncles, you're going to live to like 110, 120. So you got lots of time to go.
I have lots of time. I'm just a kid. Just
Awesome.
a kid. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned before you had that stutter, and you were also told that you're basically a moron. So it's easy for a lot of people to go, well, that's what I am. That's what they tell me. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Correct.
What was how did you overcome that? How did you go, you know what, I'm in control? Or did you go through a period of time before, you know what, I need to change something?
Well, now my father, because he believed that I was a moron, he even told me that I was stupid. So I had that part, and he used to beat me up and everything, only because of where he came from and his background, everything like that. And I had to develop the shift in the belief regarding myself in order to get past all of that and being able to move forward, because I think that was critical. And luckily I did have my mother to teach me how to be a warrior. And then I did have a wanting to know more, including early on. So I went through that period to discover, what is it about being a warrior that makes it a warrior? Is it about going out and fighting and everything like that? And I looked at like a lot of warriors out there, including the ancient samurai and Native American warriors and warriors from different cultures, from the Vikings and the ancient Greeks, the Spartans and so forth. And in every single case, yes, physicality was a big part of it, but they had to develop a certain mindset. So if we can develop a mindset to be able to overcome certain things, to be able to move forward, be able to move forward, be able to move forward, then why not do the same thing of developing who we are? And I decided yeah, I wasn't a moron. I wasn't dumb. And that IQ test, there's a reason why I scored such a low score in that IQ test. And it was stress and anxiety and everything like that was a part of it.
Mhm.
And I ended up in 1985, I retook the IQ test. So remember, I scored a 70. So I
Mhm.
retook the IQ test and I scored a 156.
And then you threw it in their face.
And I threw it in the face. So I went from a moron to a genius.
Wow.
And I was thinking, this freaking whole IQ thing is stupid the way people classify in terms of that.
Mhm.
Then I studied about the IQ test, and it turned out that the originator, the very first person, Alfred Binet,
Mhm.
when he created the IQ test, his goal was not to say that this person is always going to be like at this level. What he wanted to do was find out what a person's base was at that time, and then develop things where they can now improve themselves.
Mhm.
Wasn't meant to be an overarching intelligence overall, and this is all you're going to be.
Right.
It wasn't until later on that other people took it and decided to turn it into this, yeah, we're going to separate these people by these groups.
Mhm.
You're stupid, you're smart. And it just did not make sense to me. And after I did my research and found out why, I said, okay, people are idiots that tend to believe and categorize people in
Mhm.
these certain groups. So every single person that I talk to, you are not that. You have the ability and you can move forward. And that's a way it works. When we challenge ourselves, we move forward. In fact, your brain will change when you move forward. The instant that you make a decision and then you take the action, you move forward towards something. And even me now, when I hear even gunfire or some kind of thing going down,
Mhm.
I move forward towards it. It just because it's built into me. It's always going to be that way, even at my age. When I see even bullies picking on somebody, I move forward. I take action. I get involved in the middle of it, and I'll stop it. And I've done that many times already. And so even in a world of like whether it's business or anything,
Mhm.
this forward momentum that I think everybody should have. Forward momentum, even if you plop, and I did that in parkour back in April of 2013. I had a major parkour fail, and so this is so how that happened. And I was with my best friend Jason Johnson,
Mhm.
who's a former Muay Thai super heavyweight world champion. So what I wanted to show him how to jump from one rail to another, and this is where I lost focus. When you're talking to somebody, you don't stand on top of a rail and try to jump across to another rail. You don't do that. You need absolute focus. And this is also the thing in life. You want to have that focus and you stay focused on that. And so as I jumped onto the rail, my trailing foot here went over the rail.
Mhm.
I went over like that and did a face plant in the concrete. My nose went sideways. I had blood all over the place. And I thought I lost all my teeth because my lips were swollen and everything like that. And luckily I didn't. And so it was it taught me a lesson. Focus, 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 focus.
Mhm.
And and I tell other people, if you're involved in too many things and you think you ask yourself why is things not happening, then
Mhm.
I say you're out of focus. You're involved in too many things. You're distracted here and here and here and here,
Yeah.
including that freaking social media, going on Facebook all the time or Twitter or whatever. You're losing focus. Stop scrolling through Instagram
Mhm.
and snap out a Snapchat when you can. Yeah, and uh, you're too many distractions, and we only have a certain amount of bandwidth in our brain to be able to do anything. So if you want to become successful in a certain area, I'm not saying that money is successful, but success is what you define it as. But you need to stay absolutely focused if you want to become really, really good in a certain area. You stay focused and boom, 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 and and find ways of eliminating these distractions. And one of the things I've done on my iPhone, so like right here, is to turn off all the darn notifications. Turn them all off. I don't care. Turn them all off. You don't need them. You don't. You'll be much happier not having that, because our brains are hardwired to respond to certain things, and we get into the dopamine fix, and that's what it is. It's a big dopamine dump.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear a ding, boom, dopamine rises. And same thing as being in a casino. You hear the ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. You know, somebody pulls this down, and those machines are designed to unleash huge amounts of dopamine.
Yeah.
And our phones are designed the same way. So you need to dump those notifications so you can drop your dopamine.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm not saying dopamine is bad. Dopamine is good if you do it for the right ways.
For sure.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Lots of great insights already, man. Would you say that doing martial arts and then also being as one of the members of the LAPD, did that prepare you better and give you more beneficial characteristics going into business and entrepreneurship?
The martial arts, yes. The LAPD, not so much, but the Marine Corps, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that is because one of the things, discipline, you mentioned earlier, but also being mission oriented. So one of the things I really had a deep dive in is focusing and training for missions.
Yeah.
We would train 2 to 3 times as hard for the mission than the actual mission.
Mm-hmm.
We would train our freaking buns off going there, day in and day out. And our focus was absolutely on that mission. We knew that when we made a mistake, it can cost us our lives and the lives of other people. Yeah. So we trained in the environment that we were going to go in. We knew where we were going to go. We had a certain amount of intelligence, so we were trained based on around that intelligence. And we had to, like, okay, what if this happened? We would do something like this. Now, did it always work according to plan? No, but we were much better prepared. And in business, it's the same way, especially as an entrepreneur. If you're already running an established business, it's going to be different. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're starting out, you want to be really mission oriented. I think every business and I think every person should have a mission. And when you have a mission and you stay on point with that mission, your goals are going to be aligned with it, and everything that you do is going to be aligned with it. And so again, going back to the Marine Corps, we had a mission. We knew what our mission was, and we would keep complete focus and just going through over a period of time in order to accomplish that mission, to become successful in that. And in the business world, I had to learn to do that. And that's the reason when I see people who are not on mission, if they're focused only on making money, that's not a mission. You need to have a mission first. When you have a mission first and making sure that you create a lot of value, then people are going to pay you for that value in terms of what you offer, whether it's a physical product or service or otherwise. People will pay you for the value, but people will see right through you if all you're focused on is this. If that's your mission, then I'm going to tell you to get the heck out of Dodge, because you're not going anywhere. Right. And we see this time and again. And
very well said. Now, would you say the word fear doesn't really come into your vocabulary anymore? With Marine Corps, with martial arts, being that protector, you also talked about leaning forward, heading towards the danger, heading towards the action. Is fear an action a factor for you?
Well, yeah. So let me look at that word fear, because I don't think fear is all bad if you understand it. And the reason I say that is that if you go back to our Paleolithic days, they had an awareness of their environment, so they would have if danger came up, so the amygdala would fire off, and and the heart rate would go and everything like that. So adrenaline will be sent through the body in order to face that danger. So it creates a certain level of awareness. So fear in of itself, if applied correctly, then you can use it to your advantage.
Mm.
And so that has enabled me to be able to move forward, applied correctly. So I understand that aspect. I think what happens with most people is that they don't fight forward. They actually will freeze, or they'll run away. And again, that's part of what was built in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understand it, you can use it to your advantage. So in a physical confrontation, if I'm dealing with a threat, so I'm going to go there and then, and I'll show you how it applies in terms of business. If you're dealing with a threat, you understand how your body works, then you know that your blood is being rushed to your extremities. Either it's going to prepare you to run, it's going to prepare you to fight. So it actually will make you stronger. Knowing that, then you could take advantage of it. You can redirect it towards making things happen.
Yeah.
Now, I actually would call it like nervousness. So one of my greatest fears wasn't getting killed. It was actually speaking on stage. Public speaking was like my greatest fear.
Wow.
Yeah, only because like it harkens that back to my younger days,
Mm-hmm.
the stuttering and everything else like that. But once I learned to like understand what was happening to me as I stood in front of an audience, I said, I can use this. So I use this energy to make me much better. It's not about fighting, but using energy to really project out.
Yeah.
And nowadays, when I speak in front of an audience, if I don't feel that, I actually get concerned. If I'm so calm and I'm so confident, then I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because I know that when I have that energy coming in, I'm actually delivering much, much in a more powerful way.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up there and I try to find some way of bringing that nervousness back in prior to speaking. So there's got to be something to do it, because that makes me a much, much better public speaker in front of an audience versus not having it. So
Keeps you on
otherwise,
edge.
yeah, it keeps me on edge. It keeps me focused. Remember, so like that adrenaline actually will keep you focused if you understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm able to stay focused in terms of like seeing my audience and everything like that, knowing what I'm delivering, and I don't need to like have cards or anything unless it's certain kinds of quotes that I don't remember when I'm speaking. But it keeps me focused and it keeps me like engaged, and I'm enjoying it. If I'm there and I'm really calm and everything, I can get bored. I can get complacent. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to I want to have an audience that challenges me.
Mm-hmm.
Really. Yeah. So that's like, okay, I feel energized with that. If anybody wants out there to challenge me, I'm here to be challenged. I don't care.
No, challenges are always good. So as you said before, well, listening to you speak, you have a lot of references to the brain. You're a doctor in psychology, and you do ML, like you study MLP as well. Now, when you know so much about the mind, what would you say is the number one reason why people are so hesitant to jump out of their comfort zones? And then what would you say is the number one thing that they should do to get out of that comfort zone and achieve what they want to achieve?
Yeah. So you see, you mentioned comfort zone. So people are so used, and by the way, we see this throughout the country where people will follow somebody else in regarding to this regarding the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people want other people to lead them in general. And we see this in politics, we see this in religion, we see this in business, and people they've gotten so comfortable that they just have that inability to be able to move forward, and they also they think they have to take that giant leap in order to get to where they want to go to. And instead, because the way we work as human beings is that it's much easier to take tiny steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, if you want to get somewhere, take a tiny step. And I'm going to use fitness because this works the same way in business. If you want to start getting fit, don't think about what's going to be happening, like, that 100 pounds, let's say you want to lose. So if you want to lose 100 pounds, don't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an old analogy. How do you eat an elephant?
Mm-hmm.
How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Preferably with barbecue sauce.
Yeah. So how do you get fit? How do you lose 100 pounds? One small step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a hard time getting out and working out, well, just get out and just take a few steps. I tell people, if you're sitting on a sofa, stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down simultaneously, and do that like 15 to 20 times. To stand up, sit down, stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. That's all you have to do. If you can do that, and especially first thing in the morning, just do that 15 to 20 times. Then after like a week to 2 weeks of doing that, then step away from the sofa, then stand up and then squat down, stand up and squat down, stand up and squat down 15 to 20 times. And just keep doing those small little things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do this big workout. It only takes a few minutes to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're going to notice like your brain's going to start rewiring itself.
Yep.
Then you're going to start doing more. You're going to start doing more squats. You're going to start adding in other things. And the same thing, changing your diet. You do the same thing. Just a small little change, like take something that you really like, add in something, just take a little bit of that out and then put something healthy in, but don't do a huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like clearing out your cupboard. Just do a little bit, but it's a small little baby steps. And the more you do that and you start adding, you start accumulating those small steps, eventually it's going to add up. And again, a journey of 1,000 miles begins one step at a time.
Very well.
One step at a time. That's it. And your brain's going to get rewired. You're going to have you can establish new habits, because all we are is just accumulation of habits. Once you start rewiring your brain, and just like that old thing, neurons that fire together wire together. So you're going to start wiring, and it's going to have this huge canal of neurons that's going to be so powerfully connected.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have to weaken the ones that stop us. So again, small steps, moving towards that. And when you do that and you focused on the long term, and again, there's a lot of different ways when I work with my clients or I teach. I have different ways of helping them in terms of getting there. But it's always important. I would say if you have goals and people tell you to set goals and everything, I tell you to imagine what you see into the future. Look at what you see into the future, what you really want, and you want to be clear. So in NLP, we have a process of really adding in the submodalities of that. So that's the aspects of the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and even the smell and taste. But you want to imagine that you're actually there. You can see it in color and 3D and all this kind of stuff, as if you were there already living that goals. But there's a missing piece. You have to actually now backtrack to your current reality. You have to understand where you're currently at. Because if you only have that, but not know your current reality, then you're going nowhere. So we have to recognize that, yeah, we're in a crappy situation right now, but this is where I want to get to. I'm going to do that through baby steps. I'm going to connect. I'm going to do this kind of stuff. So it's one step at a time, but that's what I want. That's what I'm going after. But I'm doing it one step at a time in order to get there. I have to make adjustments and everything like that. So on a mission, we knew that it was always one step at a time.
Yeah.
If we came up to a challenge or an obstacle, We learn to adjust. So you learn to adjust, you learn to adapt, you learn to overcome in order to continue that.
Mhm.
And same thing in everything that we do. Adjust, overcome, adapt, and overcome. So you just move there, and
Yeah.
eventually you're going to start seeing it bear fruit. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, yeah, for sure. People just don't get people quit too fast when they don't see it. They don't get that instant gratification. They start going, you know what, it's not working. I'm going to stop. So no, it's that consistency, that persistency to keep
right.
on taking those steps that allows them to achieve the goals that they've always wanted.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
now,
exactly.
if you had an opportunity right now, and the world is giving you the stage,
Hmm.
and they go, the next few comments and the next few words that you say is going to be heard by everybody, what would you share?
Okay, I would say really look at yourself. And when I say self, because learn to understand who you really are. Because if you don't understand who you are, then you're never going to be successful.
Mhm.
You see, we go through life and we have a belief system that's been installed by other people. People have told us who we are, but we don't know who we are. We are doing things that other people have said. I've had clients and I've had friends that have done things and they were successful in their career, but it wasn't who they were, and
Mhm.
they hated it.
Yeah.
I talked to one gal who was a psychiatrist. She went to it because her family wanted her to be a doctor. So she did it. Then in her mid 40s, she decided it wasn't for her. She actually wanted to be an actress. So, so she ended up leaving that. Had another friend who was a successful attorney up in the Bay Area. And I sat down because I saw how miserable he was. And he was 50 years old at the time. And I had this conversation and I said, Barry, if you could imagine what you really want
Mhm.
and if you could have it, what would that be? And he started thinking, he says, Bob, back when I was in college, I was a DJ of my college radio station. So I asked him to describe it. And as he described it, I could see his face completely change. He went from looking really old to becoming brighter. And then I said, is there something I don't get?
Mhm.
So a few months later, he called me up and he says, Bob, guess what? And I said, what? He said, I started interning at a local radio station.
Wow.
Now, at that time, he was making a couple $1 million a year as an attorney.
Mhm.
And that was back in the early 90s.
Wow.
And so he started slowing down his law practice. He started doing this internship. Then a year later, he actually started working as a DJ. Now he did his law practice part time.
Mhm.
His wife left him because he wasn't making the kind of money anymore. But he was overweight. He walked like an old man. When I saw him next, he had lost all this weight, and he started walking like he looked like 10 or 20 years younger.
Mhm.
He completely shifted. He acted like he was back in college or something even, and it was so amazing to see the shift because he discovered who he was,
Mhm.
what really drove him, and I say to the audience, when you know yourself, and Socrates said, know thyself.
Mhm.
If you understand who you are and understand where your heart, what's going to drive you, then whatever you do, you're not going to let stop. And you need to understand that a lot of what's happening in your mind, the beliefs and everything are not yours.
Mhm.
It's accumulation of what other people have told you. Your family, your friends from the past, the educational system, and so forth, they have installed these beliefs. So you need to look at them. You need to break it down. Is it based in reality, or if it's just something that somebody told me? So you need to unleash all that and get to know yourself. Because when you have that, again, that's the foundation that's going to move you forward
Mhm.
and help you to become truly successful in your life.
Wow. Talk about deep. This is like the deepest interview I've ever done. You can go down, 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 and just search who you are. You have a book called the Mind Your Own Fitness,
Yeah, that was an older one. Yeah,
and
where I
then the next one is Developing the Champion Within,
developing the champion within.
and both of them are available now.
The developing champion within, it's in its final stages. I'm going to have that out, and I'm also working on another book as well. And I'm going to rewrite some of my old books that I had. I had one back in the 90s called Recon Marketing.
Mhm.
And then I had another one called The Inspired Warrior. So
Wow.
I'm going to rewrite The Inspired Warrior. I think that's going to be, I'm going to add in new information as I came across to make it even more powerful now than what I had years ago. So
Wow. So how can people reach out and get your books or reach out to you?
yeah, so they can go to my website, which is bobchoat.com. They can find me on Facebook. It's very easy. I'm also on Google and everything like that. And uh, and me and Dr. Sophie Nabani, we have our NLP basic practitioner. We're actually having the classes we're doing. We're recording it so we can offer it to people throughout the world that can't be on it for the live version. And we have other programs that we're doing, and then also individually as well. I have my Mind Hack Academy, of course, mindhackacademy.tv, and we'll have there's courses there. And so again, I'm everywhere. Again, you just can Google me and just come and send me a connection request on LinkedIn as well. And again, I'm available in a multiple of ways, and I'm looking forward to really making a difference. That's and then also pass the baton to some of the younger people as well.
Very nice. So for everybody out there, if you found that this episode has been very deep and you've gone that deep into your mind thinking about different things and you've been inspired, make sure you reach out to Dr. Bob Choat here and connect with him. He is a wealth of knowledge, lots of great stories, lots of great insight, and his books are awesome. I know his the podcast is awesome because I was part of one of those. So of course it's great stuff. But before I let you go, I have 5 quick questions, and just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. All right. Now, if you had the opportunity to go toe to toe in the ring with any martial arts movie star, who would that be?
Ooh, boy. Because I had so many, and a lot of my friends have also been in the movies as well, in terms of um, uh, gosh, if Bruce Lee was still around, I would like to have gone with him.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, Also Danny Inosanto, because they're the ones I know. John Michael White.
Mhm.
Uh, I like because he's a big guy and everything like that, and he has a lot of the aspects of fitness that I like as well.
Mhm.
So and
Very cool.
yeah,
So now
so
you have all 3 of these guys, Bruce Lee included, at your kitchen table.
mhm.
We're all hungry. What's a special dish and special type of food that you would serve for them?
Yeah, so because of my Japanese background and my mom taught me how to make sushi, and I was eating sushi before it was a thing in the United States, and I know how to slice the uh, the fish.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of sushi, what I see a lot of people get, are not sliced correctly. So I would serve it based on what my mom taught me, and just serve that meal.
Ooh, I wouldn't mind being part of that dinner. Um, you're on the Amazing Race, okay?
Okay.
And you got to a roadblock. You rip open that envelope. What is one activity that you do not want to see on there?
One activity I do not want to see on there.
Yeah.
Um, that I have to go on stage and walk down uh, into the audience wearing a bikini.
Wow, that's very detailed. You had some thought into that. And then, what is the next big thing for you?
Well, the next big thing is really expanding uh, the learning platform, the online learning platform. But I'm looking at uh, both the current online, but really developing a hybrid model as I look at technology and looking at like an augmented reality. So I've been looking in terms of that and see how that can be incorporated. So I know that the technology is there and it's getting better and streaming bandwidth is getting better.
Mhm.
So so you can imagine speaking on stage, but you may be speaking in a comfort of your living room, but you're on stage, but people will see you on stage and in another country or multiple areas. So
Mhm.
you can duplicate yourself without necessarily traveling, and the audience will get the same experience
Right.
as if I'm there. And so I'm looking at that and really studying the technology. I have a uh, a friend out here that has done stuff for Hollywood in terms of both virtual reality and augmented reality, and then also 3D technology. I'm also looking in like artificial intelligence getting better,
Mhm.
and so computer's going to be much better. So I'm looking at now. I'm getting in technology area because I'd studied a thing called spintronics.
Yeah.
So you've heard of spintronics?
I've heard of the term. I haven't gone deep into it.
Yeah. So spintronics is basically so you think about like digital technology now, like ones and zeros and everything like that. So these are like if you think about electronics, these are just gates that open and close in microcircuits.
Mhm.
So an open circuit is like a zero, a closed circuit is a
Yep.
one.
Yeah.
So in digital technology, you have that. Spintronics is not like that. So now you're working at the subatomic level. So these are like it spins and so so it can spin this way or spin this way, and so electronics will actually connect in terms of that, and data can be stored, and it'll never crash, but it's much faster. So you think about a computer that will go like will be like anywhere from 100,000 to a million times faster and store the same amount of data.
Wow.
So so you can think about again something the size of your iPhone, and this is what I picture because I don't think we're going to be using these the same way in the future. So
Mhm.
you can imagine if there's going to be a projector coming out of here that's going to be built into it,
Mhm.
and now we're not going to have to store any really data, maybe some apps, but store data on our things. It'll be automatically uploaded to a cloud, all your data and
Yeah.
all the software and everything. But now everything is going to be like instead of tapping on your iPhone, you'll have it like it'll project a screen, and now you'll be able to formulate a screen. It'll read your hand signals like this, and boom, boom, boom. You can adjust and everything like that. So
Minority Report.
yeah, it's just so my mind kind of works that way. I look at and I see these possibilities. I don't like to get stuck in the past, and I'm not some old guy that says, "Oh yeah, I remember when computers were this and this and this." Yeah, I can remember that. I studied computer programming during my last semester in high school, and then program IBM 360s. I studied Fortran 4,
Well,
and so I understand how technology has changed through the decades, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next and the possibilities. I think what this is okay, and I'm going to get the iPhone 12. I think it's okay,
mhm.
but I think there's like it's going to be big. It's
Yeah.
going to be much bigger than what we can even perceive now. So I think it's going to be the younger people, like the really young kids, are going to embrace that more. So I'm telling like so so when I'm doing my kind of stuff, I'm going to try to use as much of this technology. If I'm teaching even an online course, I want to try to say how can I adapt it into this new technology
Mhm.
versus using old technology, which is what we're doing now. So
Cool. And then my final question here is, what is success like? But before that, give me a number between 1 to 3.
between 1 and 3, 2.
2.
Mhm.
So how is success like a lava lamp?
How it's success like a lava lamp. Ah, very good. I like that. So a lava lamp, because of the construction and how the material moves around in it, depending on the heat sources as it moves up and down, everything like that. So success is always going to be in a continuous movement. True success is never stagnant. Like a lava lamp that continuously moves and it moves through its environment, so is success. So you always have to continuously move, change shapes, adapt. And if you're stuck in the same way of doing things, then you're actually regressing.
Mhm.
There's no growth. So success is a continuous moving here, 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 here. So what's going to happen? What's going to be like today? And again, I talk about technology. We don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So you have to be ready to adapt what's going to be happening tomorrow. And so when you're able to do that again, but you still stay focused on your mission. A lava lamp is in a container, so that's its mission, is to continue moving around inside there. You stay on your mission, but you adapt until you accomplish that. And yeah.
Awesome. Well said. And that's a very good take on why success is like a lava lamp. So very well done.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for all your insights and your wisdom. I thoroughly enjoyed all your stories and made me dive deep into my mind. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And for everybody else, remember to reach out to Dr. Bob Choat. Obviously, he has a lot of great insights, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from him. And make sure you tune into his shows because they're always great content. So thank you once again. He is Dr. Bob Choat. My name is Fong Chua. And until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.